For our first demo today, we have, I think her name is Bella, that's what it says on her crate. So we're gonna kind of split her up into a few different demos. She's a good girl. So right now I'm gonna do her feet, face, and her tail set. So I breed standard poodles and I really prefer doing those nice big chunky feet to these little tiny feet. So the technique that I would use to do a toy foot is a little bit different than the standard, of course. So we're gonna, and she doesn't know me, I don't know her. So we're just gonna try this out, see how it goes. I'm using my Wall Bravera lithium operated clipper, and I'm gonna do her feet because I don't.
Please refrain from flash photography. There's no flash photography allowed.
I'm gonna start her feet on like a 15 because I don't know her and I don't know if she's very sensitive. So, and I find that with the really small dogs, if I hold her kind of close to my body like this, it's usually a little bit easier, and they usually don't tug and pull so much. And so I just want her to feel secure and comfortable. And just gonna scoop in and out. She's a very good girl, yay. And what a lot of people don't realize, when you're having trouble getting those long hairs that go under the nails, you can actually take your clipper and use it in this direction. It will actually cut this way as well. So to get those hairs that curl under the nail, if you kind of switch your clipper, so you're almost like clipping backwards, you can scoop under the nail and be able to get all that hair.
2-hour dogs, you have 5 minutes remaining. 2-hour and 15-minute dogs, you have 20 minutes remaining.
So, and I don't want to come up any higher than this like knuckle digit right here. So, and I want to try to make this line as clean and straight going all the way around her foot, because that's only going to help with your finished product. So when it comes time to scissor around her cuffs, it's going to be a lot easier to make a nice, neat cuff. Jay's actually standing here watching, making me nervous. He's trying to learn something. So, I know you can't hear me, that's why I'm saying stuff about you. Okay, so we just scoop that out. Then I'm going to go to this front foot, and I'll do the tops of her foot since she's in kind of a comfortable position right now, and then I'll go and do the bottoms of the feet after. So, and the nice thing with these Wall clippers is they're so quiet and they're so lightweight. You don't have the cord to have to, doing the feet used to be the worst thing to do with a corded clipper, because every time you roll it back and forth, your cord would all end up all twisted. So with this, you can just kind of very easily roll this clipper back and forth in your hand and not have to worry about the cord at all. And the blade does not get hot. So that's like the big plus. If you're a new groomer out there and you're using this clipper, you don't have to worry about it getting too hot for the dog. Because most times new groomers take a while when they first learn how to do feet. You're so intent on getting everything nice and neat and really focused, and it ends up taking so long that your blade ends up so hot. Then the dog starts fidgeting if you don't realize that you've got a really hot blade under there. That's a good girl. So the way I have her now, she's actually almost kind of sitting in my pocket. And she's just looking around, and this is probably a very different environment for her, rather than being somebody's quiet shop on somebody's grooming table. She's looking at everything going on, which is probably a plus for me because she's really not tugging. She's a good girl. So now that I have the tops of both front feet, then I'm just going to let her stand. Oops. No escaping. And then I'll reach under and do the bottoms of her feet. If you're learning how to do poodle feet, or actually doing anything with feet for the first time, one thing you have to remember is to keep it as comfortable on the dog as possible. Sometimes new groomers especially are so focused on doing a good job that they don't realize that they're actually maybe pulling or twisting the foot a little bit harder or more than is what is actually comfortable for the dog. So the closer you keep the foot to the dog's body, the more relaxed she's going to be. And you can see what a good girl she's being. And again, now I'm on my second foot and I don't have to worry about the blade getting hot. And you also notice that I don't put the foot down until I'm done with it. So if she does happen to do some tugging and pulling and everything, I'll just kind of hold the foot and wait for her to stop and then continue as soon as she stops. And I don't put her foot down until I'm done with it, so that she knows that she didn't win this little tug-of-war battle. So just scoop this out. She's a good girl. Okay. Now I'll just move on to her back feet. And the back feet are usually a little trickier. Their left foot is my more difficult because I'm right-handed, and it's usually the opposite if you're left-handed. So again, especially with the toy breeds, you want to be really careful when you pick up their legs because they tend to have the kneecaps that will pop out. So I'll try to hold them more at the top of their leg, so I'm giving them more support. And again, I try to keep this leg as close to her body as possible. I don't want to do anything that's going to cause her to yank and pop her knee, which is common. It does happen, and you don't have to freak out about it. Usually I find that sometimes you can kind of massage the knee and get it to go back in, but I usually find that if I can let the dog walk around for a couple of minutes, they'll kind of put it back in themselves. I remember the first time it ever happened to me when I first started grooming. I was like, oh my God, I broke it.
2 hour dogs, it's scissors down. 2 hour dogs, scissors down. Dogs that are 2 hour and 15-minute dogs have 15 minutes remaining.
Okay, so I'm going to clean off the whole top of her foot. Same thing as the front feet up to that digit. And I'm using my index finger and my thumb to spread her toes open. See, this is what I mean about a standard poodle foot where the whole entire blade fits in there. So this, I'm basically just kind of using the very tip of my blade as I roll it back and forth. Now, if you have a dog that's sensitive, the nice thing with the Bravera and all of the wall cordless clippers is that these blades have 5 adjustments on them. So it goes from a 40 to a 30 to a 10 to a 15 to a 10 to a 9 blade. So if the dog has sensitive feet and you prefer to do them with a 10 or a 15, the longer the blade, the harder it is to get those fine little hairs around the toenails. So you could do actually most of the foot with a 10 or a 15 blade and then just bump it up a notch or two just to get around the toenails. Okay, and the same thing when I'm doing the bottom of her foot. I'm holding most of her leg in my hand so that if she is going to tug or pull, I've got control more of her whole back end than just of her leg. And I spread those outside toes down and scoop out the inside. And I find that I'm in Massachusetts and we've had a heck of a lot of snow this year. So sometimes I don't do, if I know we have a bad storm and really cold weather coming, I won't do the tops of my poodles' feet just so that they have, I don't want them to get like, if they're out in icy, crunchy snow, I don't want their feet to get really irritated. So, but I will do the bottoms because they get those snowballs and ice balls packed in there, and it's so much easier to kind of pick their feet like you would a horse's hoof, and get the ice out. So even in the wintertime, I usually always try to make sure that the bottom of the feet is clean, even if I don't actually do the top of the foot, just so they don't have to be all irritated out in the snow. Because let me tell you, they love the snow. I don't know where you guys found this puppy, but she's awesome. Okay, now we're going to do, and this again this would be like my more difficult foot to do because it's just at a different angle. So if I stand her facing me, if I can kind of get in front of her, I lift up her leg and just slightly turn her foot towards me so I can get a good clear view. A lot of times, she's being excellent. A lot of times the dogs do not cooperate this well. So sometimes And especially it's getting those inside toes that are usually the hardest. So if they don't cooperate so much on this foot, I'll try to do as much as I can from underneath. And I'll show you in 1 second, because she's being good, so I'm taking advantage of being able to do this. Some of the large dogs, I'll have them actually sit and shift their weight so that this foot is kind of out. They roll back onto the opposite hip, and then you can get a clear view at the whole top of the foot. But if it's a dog that just does really not want to cooperate with you, then what I usually do is I'll go from underneath this way, and I'll spread the toes, and I'll kind of get in there and scoop out as much in between the toes as I can from the bottom. So I find that I can actually get the inside of these two inside toes well, and I can actually get a lot done. I'm sure if you check any of my feet, you're going to find that this is going to be my worst foot that I end up leaving hairs on. Plus I'm old and I can't see very well anymore, but she's being excellent. And you see and like I said, because I've never done her before and she doesn't know me, she really is being very cooperative, and a lot of that is, besides the fact that she's a very good dog, is that I'm keeping her in a comfortable position, and that makes a huge difference. Okay, now I'm going to switch and do her face. And like I said, with this clipper, this blade is not hot, so it's okay for me to go from doing all 4 feet to doing her face and not have to worry about clipper burn or anything being too hot on her skin. Come on, baby girl. So, and again, I don't know her well. I'm going to do her face with a 15, and she does actually have, looks like she might have a little bit of runniness in her eyes. So this looks a little bit irritated in here. So I don't want to go any closer than that. So I'll fold her ear back, and I want to clean off everything in front of her ear, in front of the ear canal, and then I want to make a straight line going from the ear to the corner of the eye. And because you have so many cowlicks on the face, sometimes you have to kind of go in different directions to get it nice and clean. So I'm going to clean off her cheek. And then to do under the eye, I want to pull the skin on the corner back and kind of downward, and just with the very, very edge of my clipper, I'm going to skim over the top of her eye and scoop out. Girl. And then the same thing on her mouth. To get this area nice and clean, I use this thumb. I'm going to pull that lip back and downward, and that kind of opens up that bottom lip for you, so you can get into that flu area and get that nice and clean. And then when I do her top lip, I want to scoop up, and I'm using a little bit of pressure on her mouth so that she's not opening her mouth and sticking her tongue out, because it's really easy to nick the edge of their tongue if they want to snake it out and lick their lips quick. And if that happens, just put ice on it, something cold, let them lick, keep them calm. Accidents do happen in the shop. Try to prevent them as often as you can. Okay, now I'm going to switch and do this side. Same thing. Clean off the front of her ear canal. And then I'm going to make a straight line going from the ear to the corner of the eye. Using my thumb up over the top of her head. I'm going to pull that eye. As you can see, it will kind of close the eye up for you and allow you to just kind of skim over the top of that little eye pocket underneath and get those long hairs off. Okay, the same thing. Oh, it's okay, baby. Come on. I'm going to do her bottom jaw. Pulling with my fingers underneath, pulling that corner lip back and down. Sometimes they get really sensitive around the end of their nose, so I just try to go like as quick and light as possible. And now at this point, this side of her face, for some reason, she's a little more touchy about, so I'm trying to keep her close to my body so that she feels a little bit more secure. It's all right, baby girl. It's okay. Okay, and now I'm just going to do her throat area. Take this off for a minute. Come on, sweetheart. Good girl. She's a cute little girl under all that. So here's like where her Adam's apple is right here. So I'm going to come on a toy. I would go probably about an inch below that. You never want to come down too far because it'll actually make them look like they're U-necked. Instead of, a lot of people think that that's going to give them a nice long neck. But if you come down too far, once that neck starts to curve in, you've gone too far. So I usually, when I lift the head straight up, I find that little bump like where the Adam's apple is, and I'm going to make a little V. And then just follow that line, clean that line up to the bottom corner of the ear. And again, this is all cowlicks in here, so you might have to go in a different direction. Girl. And then lastly, we'll do her tail set.
Contestants, you have 5 minutes remaining on the large dogs. 5 minutes remaining on large dogs.
Now she's one of those that has had her tail docked pretty short. Typically on a poodle, you want the tail to be about even or slightly lower than the occiput when the dog is standing. So you can see where her tail is not balanced with her top knot. And what a lot of people do is they think that if they leave this longer, it's going to create a longer looking tail. But I think in 2 days, it's going to look just like that again. If you try to do that, you're not going to be able to get a nice long pom-pom. So if it's a short tail, then sometimes I won't even do a tail set. I'll just try to create a pom-pom on the end. And if I can get that pom-pom full enough, even though it's short, if I can get it full enough, it'll balance more with the top knot. But if I leave it long like this, I'm not going to be able to get a full pom-pom. It's going to end up looking really stringy. Generally, a rule of thumb is if you place a comb on the bottom of the rectum and bring the tail down, that line is where I want my tail set to go. So that's kind of what I'll use as my guideline. So, and I back this off to a 10 blade, and I'm just going to scoop. Being very careful, I'm not actually touching the clipper on the skin, like right around her rectum, because that's so sensitive. And I usually will cut like a V, just like right here and here to the bottom of the rectum. Such an odd word, rectum. Okay, and then on the top of the tail, I'm just going to take a little bit. I'm not going to go too far up on the base of the tail. And I want to make, because I put a V here in her throat, I'm going to make a little V here. And this is actually optional. If you want, you can make this more of a circle. But if I'm going to do a circle here, then I'll round my tail set as well. So everything I try to think of it in a balanced way. So now, with her standing as straight as you can get her, I'm going to just take my clipper and bring it down to where the tail meets the body on both sides. And then from that point, I'm just going to pivot my clipper without even taking it up off of her to the center of her spine here. And then the same thing on this side. I'm just going to keep it in one spot and just pivot. And that's usually where I can get my V nice and even and clean, and then you just kind of touch it up. So clean it up on both sides. And again, anywhere where you're doing your clipper work, the cleaner and neater you can get it at the beginning, when it comes time to scissor, I don't have to go back and fix anything. So I try to always make sure that my clipper work is done, nice and clean the first time, and it's going to save you time in the long run when it comes down to the overall finish. So that's all we're going to do on Bella right now, if that's okay. Huh, Bella? You good girl? And then we'll come back and we'll finish her haircut throughout the day.